The year is for 80 BCE. The fate of the Western world hangs on a single moment. A desperate naval battle in the narrow straits of Salamis. History tells us that a smaller, more agile Greek fleet, led by the brilliant Athenian general Themistocles, lured the massive Persian armada into a trap, crippling Xerxes' invasion and saving a fledgling European civilization. But what if they didn't? What if Themistocles' gamble failed? What if a different ship, at a different moment, had turned the tide? This isn't just a story of a different outcome. It's a window into a world we can barely imagine. A world where the vast, multicultural, Achaemenid Persian Empire, stretching from the Indus to the Nile, turned its gaze westward and simply never looked back. The fall of Persia to Alexander the Great is one of history's great turning points. But for nearly a century before that, the empire stood on the brink of a different fate, a different triumph. So, what if the Persian Empire never fell? Imagine the moment. The Greek ships, light and fast, are surrounded. Xerxes, seated on his golden throne on the slopes of Mount Argalaeo, watches with supreme satisfaction as his navy, his grand satraps, methodically crush the resistance. He wouldn't just have taken Athens. He would have absorbed all of Greece, and with it, its unique way of thinking. The democratic experiment in Athens would have been stamped out, a dangerous curiosity replaced by the satrapal system. Sparta, famous for its iron discipline, would have been an intriguing new asset, its warriors folded into the great king's elite infantry. This isn't to say that Greek culture would have vanished. Far from it. The Persians were masters of cultural assimilation. They admired Greek artistry, architecture, and philosophy. We know that many Greek scholars and artisans already worked within the Persian court. In this new timeline, the greatest minds of Greece would have been drawn to Persepolis and Susa, not as conquered subjects, but as esteemed contributors. Plato's academy would have found a new home. Its teachings integrated with the wisdom of Zoroastrianism and the mystical traditions of the East. The Parthenon might never have been built in its current form, but the great temples of Persia would have been adorned with stunning sculptures carved by Greek hands, a beautiful synthesis of styles. The Mediterranean would have become a Persian lake. The naval power of the empire, now unchallenged, would have connected its far-flung territories in a way no empire before it could. Trade routes would have flourished, not just by land along the royal road, but by sea, linking the Greek colonies in Italy to the heart of the empire in Mesopotamia and Persia. This immense economic engine would have funded unprecedented projects. Roads, canals, and cities of breathtaking scale would have been built, pushing the boundaries of engineering and design far beyond what we know. With Greece pacified, the focus would have shifted. Instead of facing the constant threat of a resurgent enemy to the west, the great king would have been free to consolidate his power and expand into new territories. Carthage, a fierce rival of Rome, would have either been absorbed or become a strategic ally, turning the tide against the nascent Roman Republic. Without the Punic Wars, and without the cultural and military influence of a fiercely independent Greece, Rome might have remained a regional power in central Italy, never rising to forge the empire that defined our world. But the Persian Empire's great strength was also its potential weakness, its sheer size and diversity. Ruling so many different peoples, Egyptians, Babylonians, Greeks required an army of administrators and a delicate political balancing act. This immense bureaucracy, however, could be both a marvel of organization and a breeding ground for internal dissent and court intrigue. The great king's court, already a den of ambitious eunuchs, queens, and generals, would have become a political snake pit of even greater proportions. A new and potent threat would not come from without, but from within. A clever satrap, a disgruntled prince, or a charismatic general could have leveraged the support of a particular region and sparked a civil war that could tear the empire apart from the inside. This is where the emotional resonance comes in. What would it have been like to live in this world? For a Greek, it would have meant the end of the grand philosophical debates in the agora, the end of the democratic ideal. But for a Phoenician merchant, it would have been an age of unprecedented wealth and opportunity. For an Egyptian priest, it might have meant the patronage of a great king who respected and even incorporated the gods of his new domain. The great stories of the Greek world, the tragedies and comedies, the myths and histories would have been told in new languages and from new perspectives. We would know of Xerxes not as a vainglorious tyrant, but perhaps as a wise monarch who unified a divided world. The long shadow of Persia would have defined our cultural landscape. Our legal systems, our languages, our religions all would have been shaped by the legacy of this enduring empire. There would have been no Alexander the Great to spread Hellenistic culture across the East. Instead, there would have been a slow, steady fusion, an immense melting pot of traditions, where the Persian god Ahura Mazda, with his emphasis on truth and order, would have been a dominant force in the spiritual lives of millions. So, when we look at the ruins of Persepolis, when we read the tales of Darius and Xerxes, we see not just the remnants of a fallen kingdom, we see a ghost of an alternative future. We see the very real possibility that our world, our history, our understanding of civilization itself could have been fundamentally, irrevocably different. And it all hinged on a single, desperate gamble in a narrow strait. A gamble that, in our reality, paid off, but in another, failed spectacularly.